A seasoned entrepreneur is thinking about return on brain damage. What is the path of least resistance for me to grow a healthy, successful company? I want to build a company that can win. First-time founder, it's all about following their passion. It's all about doing what they want to do. It's all about trying to change the world. I thought everybody should buy a business. Man, I've completely changed my mind on that.
Just the things going on with all the tariff stuff and the markets. I mean, you drown that out, or is it impacting any of your businesses in any way?
I think China totally abuses our companies. They rip off our patents. They copy our logos. They rip off our ads. They undercut our products by 80%. And it's a real problem for American entrepreneurs in general. There is no way that we can do all this manufacturing in the United States. We don't have the manpower and the labor to actually build all this stuff in America, but we got to get away from China.
You had a tweet that was like, technology is not going to advance that much from here. Things will largely be the same 20 years from now. Is that just something that's like clickbait to get people to react? Because a lot of stuff's changing right now with like AI and all these things.
You talked to Elon Musk in 2010, and he's telling us we're going to have full self-driving cars by 2013, and that the world is going to be different by 2020. And we're very lucky to have those visionaries, but it's very easy for the entrepreneur to fall into the media circus and the trap online. They need to close their damn computer and go touch some grass. These AI agents are laughable in my opinion, and I cannot believe in my logical brain that any business with an over $5 or $10 product is going to trust these agents to answer the phone anytime soon.
Nick, welcome to the podcast. Thanks for coming on.
Max, thanks for having me, Max.
I'm not going to give a full background here. I think a lot of people, at least if you're in the Twitter world or the X world, know who you are. You recently released a book. So why don't you tell some folks about that, and then we'll kind of launch into the conversation.
Yeah, man, I wrote a book called The Sweaty Startup, and it is basically what I wish I would have read at, 21, 22 years old, right before I started that first business. A lot of business books, I can spend 5-6 hours reading them, and I can walk away with 2 or 3 great concepts, and, impacts my business in a positive way. So I think it's still worth it. But my goal was to write a book where it's, 3 or 4 takeaways per chapter instead. And, so yeah, man, I'm proud of it. Talk about how to spot opportunity. Obviously my philosophy on entrepreneurship is a little bit unique, and then how to manage people, how to hire people, how to sell, how to make decisions, all those, key things that they don't talk a lot about.
Well, it's important, I think, to give back to folks in terms of information and advice, and you can't do it to everybody. They can read your tweets, but having something that's concise that people can learn from, I think, is positive. But as you know, doing multiple businesses and startups, at some point you kind of have to do, and you can take all the advice and listen to people. And I think that gives you a framework, but as you try things, you get better. And a lot of times I think it's you learn the things you don't like. And so I know Sweaty Startup is kind of the brand, but it seems like it's gotten less sweaty as you've gone in, got a little bit more sophisticated and learned. And so,
Yeah.
I don't know, maybe talk about that concept of like trying and learning and figuring out not just how to make money, but how to do it in a better way.
Look, every concept in entrepreneurship, whether it's sales, decision-making, hiring, delegation, firing, marketing, all of it, it's all a muscle, man. And like, I learned this stuff by doing it for 10, 12 years. And it's so people think they can, listen to a show like this or watch a YouTube video or read tweets or read a newsletter or whatever it is. And they think that's going to make them better at business. And it can, like, you can learn a ton. But if you're not in the gym lifting the weights, it's really hard to build the muscle. Like, you can't just build the workout plan, study muscle, read about it, eat the protein, order the supplements. You got to get out there and do it, man. So it's definitely about momentum as well. The thought of like me 1 month into my entrepreneurial journey, sweating, hoofing boxes up and down stairs in that moving and storage company called Storage Squad. If you would have fast forwarded 15 years and told me where I was going to be today, I would not have believed you, man. It's just it's an unbelievable thing when momentum hits. So, people underestimate that.
Do you feel like as you go through these different ventures, you hit this point where you're like, there's got to be a better way, or I'm doing this and it's making money, but it's hard and there's other things I could be doing that could be easier? Because to me, it feels like I'm always in search of like optimizing, the effort, the time, and then the value you can extract. And then risk is also a factor in that too. But how do you think about that framework between effort, time, value, risk,
Yeah.
and where to best spend your effort?
You're a seasoned entrepreneur. I can tell by that thought process. Like a seasoned entrepreneur is thinking about return on brain damage. It's the only thing they think about. What is the path of least resistance for me to grow a healthy, successful company? I'm agnostic of industry. I don't care what I want to be doing. I want to build a company that can win. A first-time founder, It's all about following their passion. It's all about doing what they want to do. It's all about trying to change the world. So accelerating that evolution for people is a thing that I'm super passionate about. It's not about you. It's not about what you want to do. It's about looking at the market unemotionally and being like a glass of water at the top of a mountain. If you turn on a fire hose at the top of a mountain, that water is going to find the path of least resistance to get to the bottom. And a lot of entrepreneurs, unfortunately, don't look at entrepreneurship that way. When in reality, it's about taking the path of least resistance.
Yeah, for sure. You're obviously a good communicator. The book is another level of communication. I think you've been writing long before that, obviously with tweets, but how, important do you feel like the written word as well as the spoken word is to being a successful entrepreneur? Because I mean, I'll tell you, when I was home during COVID for a brief period, my wife was like, I figured out what you do. You talk on the phone all the time for work. And it's like, you have to communicate with people. And I think that a lot of folks have a great idea or a good idea for a product, but if you can't communicate it, if you can't lead a team, if you can't, get people hyped up about it, that's a big piece of what you do is communication.
I learned very early on that nobody in this world does what they don't want to do. Nobody. Okay, sometimes you do what you don't want to do to get the outcome that you want, which is money, but every single person does things because they want to do it. So you as an entrepreneur, you are in sales 100% of the time. What's the most important part of sales? Communication, clear, concise communication. If you look at an effective entrepreneur, their superpower almost across the board is the fact that they can say in 30 seconds what it takes other people 5 minutes to say. It's a very powerful tool, very powerful tool. So I feel very passionately about clear, concise communication, voice inflection, holding people's attention, whether you call that charisma or salesmanship or whatever. I think it's a it's one of the things that only comes through practice, but it is critical to doing any high value task inside of a company.
Absolutely. You've done some companies where you've built them just from the ground up. You've done a pretty high profile acquisition recently as well. My bias typically is towards trying to build something
Mhm.
versus trying to buy something. There's instances where I think buying makes sense, but like a lot of times for me, it's like if I get in and try to build something and just try it, you learn so much. And I worry about the people on, X that talk about, buying businesses and how easy it
Mhm.
is. And it's like people get caught into this idea that they can just buy this thing. And oftentimes they're buying a job or they're buying a bunch of risk.
Yep.
I mean, just your thoughts on buying versus building.
Yeah, if you look, there's three things you need to run a business effectively. Capital. It's very hard to do business at a high level without money coming in. Period. If you have no money, it's very hard to grow, it's very hard to hire, it's very hard to market, it's very hard to operate. Period. Especially if you're stressed about paying your rent. You need a network and then you need operational chops. You need to know how to do all these things we're talking about already. So most people, if you have none of those three things, you have no business going out and buying a company. If you have no money or cash flow, if you have no skill, you have no business going out and buying a company. Um, it took me a very long time to get comfortable, and it's still an uncomfortable feeling, buying a company, having investors, having a lot more on the line. So I'm kind of with you. But on the other hand, like people have been telling me since day one that I'm putting false hope in people and I'm going to make them make horrible decisions. I don't think anybody's out there buying a company on because of what somebody writes on X. They're doing it because they think it's best for them and their family. And I do think there's a place for that. I think it's a way and a proven way to generate generational wealth. It's also a way to go broke.
For sure. Do you think you've said it before, I think, that entrepreneurship isn't for everybody? That's another like trope that you see is that like anybody can do it, anybody can build a company, anybody can, have this type of success. I'm kind of torn on this one because I do think that in the right circumstance with the right mindset, a lot of people can do a lot more than they think they can. I just don't know that it is for everyone in terms of like just what's all actually involved. It's a lot more gritty behind the scenes than what it looks like on social media.
I'll tell you that 5 years ago when I first started, recording my podcast and writing on the internet, I thought everybody should buy a business. I was screaming at the top of my lungs that the only way to get wealthy is to buy a business, which I still believe for the most part. The only way to get outsized wealth is to build or buy a company. But I thought that everybody should do it. Like this is something that everybody should do. Man, I've completely changed my mind on that. I think you can build an amazing life working for somebody. I think a lot of concepts in the sweaty startup can work for somebody who has a job and wants to make more money. But I also think it's been an eye opener for me over the last 5 years to just see how incompetent the average person is when it comes to making decisions. And I don't say that to put myself on a pedestal or say that I'm different. I make a lot of mistakes as well. But the average human is, you know, divorced, overweight, and doesn't have $500 in their checking account, and they leave a wake of destruction in every relationship in their life. So how can they, run an organization and make those decisions all day? It's just not. It's not at all feasible. So, yeah, I'm with you.
Well, and it's just like that's the one end of the spectrum, and it is probably like an average. There's quite a few people in that boat. There's a lot of other people that are just like good at things that aren't the skill sets that it requires to be entrepreneurial. I mean, I think one of the things is there's so much. I use the word uncertainty, but it's really like it's a choose your own adventure book, and you have to kind of wake up and be like, all right, here's all the things I could do today. You have to high grade what those things are that are the most effective that you should be doing. You then actually have to execute on those things. I mean, you have to deal with all that uncertainty. And I think some people, like, they just can't compute. Like, if you're an accountant, you want to go in, sit in a spreadsheet, you want to have your deadlines every week. And those people are critical. Like, we need them. But for me, like, I can never be that person. And I think there is just a certain personality type that you have to be able to deal with that uncertainty and kind of steer the ship.
I want to talk about sales because I'm super passionate about that. But I was in a meeting with one of the high performers at one of my companies earlier this week. It's Thursday, Monday morning. He's a stud. Like, he is super talented, adds an amazing amount of value to my company, and he is one of the people at my company that I cannot afford to lose. And I was in a meeting with him, and it's our annual review, and we're like, okay, how much money you want to be making? What do you want to be doing? And I just straight up asked him, I'm like, look, man, like, me and Dan are doing a lot of things. We're still, you see, we're still in the trenches operationally in this company, but like, do you see yourself running this business someday? Like, is that a goal of yours? Like, is this something we should keep in the back of our mind? And he thought about it and he said no. He's like, absolutely not. I love my work and I think I'm good at it, and I love finishing my day knowing that I added value, and I like winning and I like the structure of it, but I don't eat, sleep, and breathe this like you do. Like, I care about other things outside of work. And one thing I don't like is dealing with people problems. Like, I don't want people to come to me asking for raises. I don't want people to come to me when there's drama inside the business or they're not happy. I don't want customers or, investors or whoever to come after me if things aren't going well. So no, I don't want to be the CEO of this business someday. And that is a mistake I made very early on as an entrepreneur. Is I assumed everybody thought like me. I assumed all my employees, they wanted to be their own boss. They wanted a dynamic work environment. They didn't want to be told what to do all the time. As I evolve as a business person, I realized that structure is very healthy inside of an organization, and almost all employees want to be told how to win, and they want the big problems to go to somebody else.
Yeah. Well, even like between entrepreneurs, I think people have different goals and objectives. Like, I've met people that are in the very, very high net worth category that are like these, they eat, live, breathe it. And the one trait that I've noticed, and it's not all of them, but the main trait I've noticed is there are people that are very discontent, like all the time. Like, they're discontent with everything. And it's like they're never happy. And that's like what's driven them. It's like if you hit the sales target, they want the sales target 20% higher. If you achieve the exit, they want another exit that's 10x bigger. And so they're just people that are kind of like sort of, I mean, I don't want to say miserable, but that's like part of their personality, is that they like are always discontent.
It's irrational optimism too, man. Like, I have irrational optimism. I think everything is going to be 10 times easier than it turns out to be.
Well, you got to have some of that. I mean, or you wouldn't start a lot of things because you would, if you knew, it's like what was the CEO of NVIDIA? He was kind of like, if I knew what I knew now of how hard this is going to be, he's like, I don't know. I mean, he's like, if I would have done everything at the beginning that I've done.
And he's
I
won
think,
the game, dude. He's won the game. Like, he built one of the biggest, most successful companies in the history of the world. It's really powerful when it comes from a guy like that.
yeah. And I think that there's other entrepreneurs, and you kind of find yourself in the journey, and I think you evolve, but like, there's other guys I know that like have made a ton of money and done well and have successful businesses, but they're not driven to be like a billionaire. They're kind of like, I am good at what I do. There's like this level of getting back to the beginning where it's like how much stress, how much effort, how much risk. And I think you can evolve over time. And some of that depends on like if you've already had some success, it's like, well, maybe I don't need to risk everything now anymore. Maybe I can, get some base hits and I'm happy with this. it just depends on like what your objectives are. Do you feel like you change as you've gone through this stuff, or do you feel like it's been pretty consistent, like your attitude towards your longer term goals are?
Yeah, it's a I have so many things that I wanna say because I'm so passionate about this, but I think there's a common theme in my life and life of most successful entrepreneurs, and many of whom are way more successful than I am, of just, like, constantly being uncomfortable, constantly. As soon as we get comfortable, the ambition starts to kick in. We don't feel like there's enough balls in the air. We don't feel like we're getting enough feedback on the decisions we're making, and we take on something new, or we take a little chance, or we start another company, or whatever it might be. And also just, like, nobody's ever going to give you permission to do any of this stuff. So if you're sitting back and you're a little bit insecure, like nobody's ever going to tell you, "Hey Nick, this is a no-brainer. There's no reason why this is going to fail. This is going to be great. You There's no reason not to do this." Nobody's ever going to say that. I didn't have permission to fill a 70,000 square foot warehouse full of, 50,000 boxes in Boston and hire college kids to drive 25 box trucks around. Anybody who would have told me to do that at 23 years old would have just called me crazy. Same with building the real estate private equity business. I couldn't even get an internship at a real estate private equity company with my background, let alone build a private equity company. Same with the somewhere acquisition. It's just constant theme across all entrepreneurs. You have to give yourself permission. And I know so many people who make phenomenal money in this world simply because they're not insecure. Frankly, some of them are just below average people, below average intelligence, not that smart, not that good at decision makers, but they make phenomenal money simply because they're not insecure. So if there's one trait that entrepreneurs share, it's that ambition, it's that sense of urgency, but it's also just that almost delusional confidence at times.
Self belief, you have to have that. I mean, it takes a level of delusional confidence, and I think that that is a part of it where, I mean, if you don't believe, then no one else is going to believe, right?
Yep.
Like you have to not just sell yourself, but often you have to sell your peers, the people who are trying to get to work for you, your investors, whoever it may be. So like it kind of starts with that belief, because if you don't have that, then no one's going to follow you, no one's going to invest in you. It's just going to be a challenge, and I think that where people get in trouble is if they take too big of a leap too early. It's like you got to have delusional self-belief, but then you got to also like leg your way into things and figure it out as you go. And that's always my advice to someone trying to start something. I'm like, start small. If you really like this business idea and you've never done it, I'm like, look for a public equity and buy it in that same, industry, and study everything about it and watch it go up and down and do like something really small at first. I'm not saying analysis paralysis, but like if you've got no experience but a ton of confidence, like figure out a way to get into it where it doesn't like destroy you.
I just
Because yeah, go ahead.
I feel so I agree wholeheartedly. I just got a puppy, and I compare an early entrepreneur. This is a really stupid comparison. I probably shouldn't have even brought this up, but imagine a puppy if a ball rolls down the hallway. That puppy's gonna have the drive and energy that every ounce of being in their body wants to chase that ball. Where a 12-year-old dog is laying on your couch and a ball goes rolling down the hallway and it might lift its head up to look at it, but it sure as hell is not gonna get excited about chasing that ball. I am so thankful that I didn't fall into the entrepreneurial culture early on where I needed to have $1 billion startup and I needed to change the world, or the chance or the thought of making a couple $1,000s loading boxes would never have excited me. I would have been the old dog laying on the couch looking at that opportunity. So it's far too many people set the goal way too high. They don't have the energy, frankly, to chase these boring trade your time for money endeavors at the beginning. Because I think every entrepreneur should trade their time for money at the beginning if they don't have any skills and capital.
Yeah, it's the easiest way to start. And like, anybody can go. It's not about making money. Anybody can go make money. If you go knock on doors and try to mow yards, like you'll find somebody that will let you mow their yard.
Exactly.
You might have to cut your costs or your prices or whatever, but you could do it. So you got to start somewhere. One thing I think that I have learned to appreciate more is that, you get this shiny object syndrome as an entrepreneur. Like you see something exciting, you want to chase it. One thing I found after having some either venture investments or startups that like not necessarily were failures, but like they got to a point where I'm like, I don't really want to do this anymore. And then you got to like wind it down, just the commitment that's involved with any new business. I mean, even just the taxes, like I'm so tired of K1s. Like it's just, there's a lot of like, I think people get into things, especially if it's something with debt. And then it's like you're committing years of your life, whether you want to or not. You can't just like quit it's not like a job where you're like, I don't like it here anymore, I'm going to quit. I think
Yep.
people dramatically underestimate how big of a commitment it is to try to pursue something. And then once you had like employees and like all these things, like it's a huge, like you can't just get out. Like you're trapped. So you better make sure
Yep.
it's the right thing.
Yeah, if I lose energy for any one of my companies, there's families that get impacted. Like people all of a sudden can't feed their families, and other ones where I have investors with real money invested. Like there's no Nick doesn't feel like it anymore. It's a commitment.
That gets back to your people, your comment around people. And there's a lot of people out there that have those commitment issues or that switch jobs every 2 years or whatever, every year. And it's like, you got to have a mindset of, once I get in this, I have to stick it out. And I think that's something that people don't think enough about until you've been trapped in some kind of venture where you're like, I don't really want to do this anymore. How do we
Yep,
wind this down? I mean, I've had a few of those and it's just a pain. And I don't
yep.
know that people give that enough respect.
And pick something where you're likely to make money because you're way less likely to get burnt out if you're winning. People think, "Oh, I wanna do something I wanna be doing." So they start a business and a passion project when I'll just tell you the straight up truth. Any business that you start, if you're making money, gets fun really fast. If you're not making money, you get burnt out really fast. Burnout is simply things not working for a really long time, and you don't know how the hell to make them work. Like that's what burnout is. So yeah, it's a serious problem in general when people start these businesses that are about them and it's all about me and it's about what I'm passionate about instead of, hey, what can I do that increases my odds of making money?
Yeah, for sure. One thing, a theme that you've talked about, you've kind of like downplayed technology. It's sort of part of the sweaty brand, which is like, you don't have to be fancy. It doesn't have to be some new app or software or whatever.
Mhm.
And you said you had a tweet that was like, technology is not going to advance that much from here. Things will largely be the same 20 years from now. I'm paraphrasing it, but that's basically what you said. Do you, is that, is that just something that's like clickbait to get people to react, or do you really believe that, or just your thoughts on like, because a lot of stuff's changing right now with like
Yeah,
AI and all these
yeah.
things. Like, how do you wrap your head around making sure
There,
you evolve?
there's a big part of the world that's pushing back on technology right now because it's getting too close to us with our kids, with our phones, with our addiction to those things. I'm pushing back on it. I realize that, hey, having my phone in my pocket and having direct access to anybody in the world, any of my companies, any of my customers all the time is not healthy. So, how much closer am I going to let technology get to me? That's just one big concept. And of course, like innovation, AI, all these things. I'm going to be the first one that if my 350 employees across my portfolio can do the work of 500 employees with a tool, I'm going to be the first one to adopt that tool. And so, from a business perspective, of course, there's always advancement. There's always ways to be more efficient. The new way is the most realistic way for me is hiring exceptional talent in Johannesburg, South Africa for 70% less than hiring somebody in New York City with the same skill set, same talent. We don't have to go there, but generally speaking, the average American is trying to figure out how to make rent next month. They're trying to figure out how to, have relationships with their kids or their spouses. They're trying to figure out how to pay the bills. They're trying to figure out what groceries to make. They're trying to figure out how they can get done with work faster to go home and watch Netflix. There's still four walls. There's still a doorknob on a door. I don't know how we're going to evolve from here much further. At least as fast as people think.
Well, I mean, some of this is, it's like if you look at what they thought the future was going to be in the year 2025, if you looked around and didn't see the iPhones and didn't see, I mean, cars look a little shinier, I guess, but and some of them are electric like go-karts now, but or like golf carts, but
Yeah.
basically if you walked around and you like, there might be some things that you'd see, you're like, oh, that's way different, but not that different.
How different is a house? How different is a house functionally that was built in 1980 than it is than today? How different?
Not much. I mean, maybe you have a dumb thermostat that's supposed to be smart that shuts off when the Wi-Fi doesn't work. But
But you talk to Elon Musk in 2010, and he's telling us we're going to have full self-driving cars by 2013, and that the world is going to be different by 2020. And we're very lucky to have those visionaries, but it's very easy for the entrepreneur to fall into the media circus and the trap online of just how big all this is. And it's very easy to fall into it. It's very easy because so many brilliant people think about advancing the world, and we're very lucky that they do spend time thinking about that. The average entrepreneur, they need to close their damn computer and go touch some grass, in my opinion.
right. Well, I think you said this, and maybe you didn't. It was either you or another entrepreneur that I follow, but something along the lines of like, to start a business, it could be as easy as like doing something with the same quality, but like doing it twice as fast as the other person or more efficiently.
Yeah.
And so it's like, it's these simple ideas. It's like, I can provide the same service just as good, but I do it twice as fast as
Yep.
somebody else, or like, more efficiently.
I
And
was in
that in
a
and of itself could work.
I was in a entrepreneurship class at Cornell. So my junior year, right at the end of my junior year, I started the business. Senior year, I was all in on entrepreneurship. So I took 3 entrepreneurship classes, and one of them was, "Hey, let's get up in the front of the class and pitch your business idea." And I was the 25th kid in the class with my sweaty startup. I'm going to pick up people's stuff and I'm going to put it in a warehouse. All 24 of the other students had, app ideas, new inventions, new products, new technology, new software, new tech. I get up there and I pitch my sweaty startup of, "Hey, I'm going to pick up people's boxes and I'm going to answer the phone when they call me." The teacher, the professor puts her hand up and says, "Hey, what's your moat?" And I'm like, "What do you mean? What's my moat?" And she's like, "How is it scalable? Like, what are you going to do to scale? Like, how are you going to, be different than the competition?" I'm like, the competition is putting every box on a scale and they're printing out their schedules in the morning at the warehouse. I'm going to use Google Sheets and I'm going to charge a flat rate per box. I think we can pick up boxes 3 times as fast. I think I can charge a little bit less money and have better margins than the competitors." And she's like, "Not scalable. You don't have a moat." And 24 of the other students in class went and got jobs. And here I am, almost 15 years later, still at this game of entrepreneurship. Now, I still have a lot to learn, but my approach statistically was a little bit more effective.
That's great. Well, the other thing too is you just went out and did it and you learned. It's back to the beginning, just going out and doing. I had a guy that has been a successful entrepreneur, and he told me the best way to never do it is to keep talking about it. He's like, the more you talk about it, you're less likely to actually do anything. As you've gotten more and more stuff going on, how do you scale like your time? People probably like, how do you do all this stuff? I'm sure it's like you got a lot of great people around you, but how do you think about scaling your time as you try to take on new things?
Yeah, I can't. I have enough balls in the air where I can't actually have a job inside any of my companies. Um, if there's a core function of the business that depends on me, it's a problem because I'll pretty quickly become the bottleneck because I have a lot going on. That said, I have competent leaders in any business. Let's say the sales team has a great leader that reports directly to me. I work closely with. The operations team has a leader that I report very closely with. The delivery, the sourcing. If you're talking about recruiting, there's 4 or 5 key branches of every business where I know exactly what's going on in the whole branch. And I know what everybody's working on and I know what the priorities are. And I can guide and we can get on the same page. And then I don't need to give a ton of attention to that branch unless things aren't going great or they need a new set of priorities to work on. So that's my management style. But I'm like, people think it's easy to have a holding company and they see me on Twitter and they see me playing golf. I'll tell you that I'm in the weeds of a lot of these businesses for sure.
Yeah, you kind of have to be. I mean, one thing I found is that the more I've paid attention to a venture, the better it does. But you can't pay attention to everything. So then it becomes like, all right, well, if you have good partners that are peer level, with you in terms of they're good at what they do, they know how to run a business, like good operating partners that are ethical, you can trust, that you've known, and you don't have to worry about those types of things. That's where it gets powerful because somebody's got to be paying a lot of attention. There's like, you can't just have something that's just going to work on the side passively. Like there has to be at least somebody that's like giving it their full attention. I feel like for a company to really be successful. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe people have
Yeah,
these
that's
side hustles that they do it, but I don't see another way.
yeah, business is not passive. You're absolutely right about that. And there's a big difference between a company that does, 200 grand a month and one person can focus on growing that company and a business that does 1.5 million a month and there's 150 employees and you need 5 or 6 different people focused on different parts of the business. So there are levels to this game, and then there's the level that I'm nowhere near, which is running a public company with different branches of different businesses and thousands of employees. So there's levels to this game, man. I have a lot to learn, and business will humble you right when you think you really know what's going on.
Absolutely. Let's get a little bit more topical. I mean, a lot of craziness going on in the world. I don't know if you have any businesses that I know of that would be impacted by the tariffs. I mean, certainly you got a global business with the staffing stuff, but just wondering, do you see risks, opportunities? Is it all just noise? Like just the things going on with all the tariff stuff and the markets. I mean, do you drown that out, or is it impacting any of your businesses in any ways?
I don't sell any physical products, so luckily I'm spared. I feel really bad for the people who have e-commerce businesses and their factories are in China. Like that's a black swan event, and I don't know how you recover from that without hemorrhaging a ton of money. I just can't logically think of a solution. Um, but yeah, like the madness is. I personally love to see the government moving fast, man. I like it when shit happens. I think China totally abuses our companies. They rip off our patents. They copy our logos. They rip off our ads. They undercut our products by 80%, and it's a real problem for American entrepreneurs in general. So if we can crack down on it now, and yes, there's going to be a lot of pain, but if we can crack down on it now, it's going to be a way better time to be an entrepreneur 5 years from now when knockoffs aren't getting shipped in and undercutting you and your livelihood nonstop. I think it's just terrible business practices.
I agree with all that. I mean, and hopefully maybe through this, some other countries can step up to, because I mean, it's just tough to make stuff here. You got to import certain things. And, I've talked to some smart e-commerce guys and it's like, they're like, it's not labor. It's like all the other stuff, like raw materials, real estate here is more expensive. I mean, it's hard
Yep.
to do it here. So even if it's like assembled here or made here, I think it's going to be a challenge into the future to truly onshore these things. But I agree with what you're saying about China. Like something has to happen there because they're they're trying to do everything they can to hurt the U.S., even though
Yep.
we're their largest trading partner.
Yeah, so I'll make some predictions, and I'm just a guy. I've absolutely will preface this by saying this is for discussion purposes only because I don't know what the hell's going on as much as anybody else. But there is no way that we can do all this manufacturing in the United States. There's too much of an insatiable desire for cheap goods. People want cheap things, period. And we don't have the manpower and the labor to actually build all this stuff in America. But we got to get away from China because it's a national security risk, and they're not good actors. I see it going to Mexico. Because then it's not a national security risk. You still get the labor arbitrage and you can get it right across the border. Now we have some problems to solve at the border in Mexico, of course. But if I were a betting man, I would say that real estate along the Mexico border is going to get a lot more valuable. And a lot of things are going to be manufactured right across the border in Mexico. And it's going to be amazing for the Mexican government and their people if they can get their corruption figured out and get things going straight.
Yeah, that's not probably not a bad prediction. Shifting a little bit to the real estate side, I mean, I do think that these macro moves impact you in that way. I mean, the rates in the bond market, it's been going crazy. Like, it's almost like there were some just wild moves, and rates came down a lot, and they spiked up, and so there are some things with these tariffs and what's going on here that do impact you guys. How much do you pay attention to that, or is it just like I can't, can only control what I can control, and if there's an opportunistic time to refi or do something, I'll do it, but you can't like obsess about it, or what? How do you think about that day to day?
I'm very happy to be holding a portfolio of self storage facilities instead of a portfolio of $100 million worth of equities. That's for sure. um, I I'm trying to operate my facilities, my portfolio as best I can, and wait 10 years. Because if you have well operated real estate and you hold on to it for 10 years, amazing things happen. We got through all of our refis. We didn't call a dollar of capital. Super proud of that, considering interest rates doubled. After I bought all these properties, so our portfolio is in a really good spot. Revenue's up 16%, almost 16% year over year in last month. So we're not super dependent on rates at the moment, and we're fine to just wait it out. Like if rates drop, of course we're going to take advantage and we're going to lock in some debt. But generally speaking, we have a real estate friendly administration. Super excited about that. I own a cost segregation firm. The tailwinds are going to be massive when rates do drop and bonus depreciation comes back, which I think it will. So yeah, it's an exciting time, but I'm kind of sitting on the sidelines just watching, focusing on what I can control.
Yeah, you got to focus on what you can control. Do you think like the slowdown in people moving, like the housing market slowdown, impacts the storage space? I mean, you'd think it'd have to, right?
It
I mean,
did. It
I don't know a lot
absolutely
about it,
did.
but
It absolutely did. It absolutely did. Our same store rentals last summer and the summer before, 2023 and 2024, in peak season, June, July, and August, which school's out, people are moving, you're getting more rentals than ever. It was down 30% off 2022 and 2023 levels from a year over year record, or 2021, 2022. So yeah, it's not a fun time to own real estate, but we'll have our time.
yeah. Well, and I mean, like people, to me, it's like those are the types of factors that if you can just control your costs. I mean, because I do real estate as well. It's not in the self storage space, but it's like we're really focused on, obviously want to maximize top line the best you can. Sometimes there's just things that, there's things going on and top line is what it is. But if you're like really good at the bottom line in terms of maximizing how efficient it is, your costs, you've got the marketing and you're doing everything you can. I mean, that's all you can do. And to your point, if you don't have balloon payments or things coming up and you've got debt that's locked in, I mean, I think that it's less risky than for a seasoned operator. It's less risky than people want to make it as long as you're making the right moves, I guess.
And we've had to focus on innovation and improving our company. Like our Filipino sales center to rent storage units was replaced by like a head of sales and South African trained salespeople with a British accent to rent units. And our conversion rate went from 35% to 45% on when the phone rings for somebody to rent a unit. Like these little things that we're able to do when, okay, it's not a huge buying season, it's not a big refi season, we're not super busy growing the portfolio, we can hammer down on operations and lean on some of this worldwide talent and just improve the way we do business. So yeah, it's been a always something to work on for sure, even if it's not a busy, exciting time.
I think that's like the language aspect of it. Like they're just more comfortable, or it's like, what do you think the reason for that was? Like somebody with a British accent, or that versus somebody with a,
Unfortunately, so look, we still have a ton of Filipino talent all over our companies. They're amazing people and very good workers to have it at your businesses. But unfortunately, like when a American is on the phone and they talk to somebody in the Philippines, the the accent is immediately identifiable as, hey, I'm talking to somebody on the other side of the world. And the way our customers, we just hear the tone of their voice shift. They're not meaning to be that way, but they just have less respect and are we can have less command of the conversation in that regards. When we switched and hired South African trained salespeople, and look, we're putting a lot more energy into it. And one of our best salespeople is in the Philippines, so we still have some people on our team who are in the Philippines. It's just been effective, man. Like it's been a better reaction from our customers.
yeah. What, talk to me about, and that makes sense too. Talk to me about the Shepherd business. What is it now?
Somewhere.com. Yep.
Somewhere.com. That was a big swing for you and going out there and doing that deal. You obviously had insight into the business because you were a part owner, but what got you so excited? Why did you think that that was the move? And how is it going since you've done the,
Yep. So I got involved as a customer first, 2021. Got involved as an investor a year later. Business grew, business grew, business grew. Long story short, my partner in 2023 got approached by a PE group to sell 51% of the business at a $47 million valuation. Instead of taking chips off the table, I convinced him to sell to me instead. I raised $20 million, bought the business at a $52 million valuation, got a seller note as well in there for me, and closed the deal on May 1st of 2024, so a year ago. And yeah, man, it's hiring all over the world has changed the way that I do business. It's changed every one of my businesses. It's changed RE Cost Seg. It's changed, somewhere. It's changed Bolt Storage. It's changed the way I think about entrepreneurship and growing a business. And I think the trend is just getting started because technology really is just now here to work asynchronously all over the world from your home in Johannesburg or in Cairo, Egypt, or in Bogota, Colombia. So yeah, it's people think virtual assistant, people think somebody in the Philippines. We're finding, head of finance talent. We're finding underwriters in Cairo. We're finding, digital marketers in Poland. We're finding operations managers and architects in Colombia and Brazil. So yeah, it's a business with some tailwinds in my opinion. So I took a big bet. How it's going? Revenue in February was up 40% year over year. So we're happy with the growth and we're adding a lot of talent to the business because, like I said, the infrastructure required to go from 150 employees to scale a business up to some of our lofty goals. We want to take the business to 50 plus million a year of revenue. It's not the same structure. So it's been a lot of investment in the future, but yeah, really excited about somewhere.com.
seems like when I think about outsourced staffing, a lot of times I think about lower level positions that you could, then I start to think, well, is AI going to like replace those things? But then when you start to mention architects or, these higher level, positions that quite frankly here would be very expensive, that seems like a pretty exciting avenue for that business. So what is like the mix, would you
Yeah.
say? in terms of like low level stuff that like anybody could do, and you just need bodies versus these
Yeah,
higher level.
we still hire a ton of just operations or executive assistants. They come in, they work for $800 to $1,200 a month. We put them through a training program at somewhere where they get trained up on AI, they get trained up on some business processes, and then they go to work for businesses. That's still 40-50% of our business. But man, I hired a chief revenue officer from a B2B SaaS company in Johannesburg for 7 grand a month. A chief revenue officer. I'm hiring like closers, big time salespeople, all in compensation $300 to $3,500 a month. These people in the United States are $200,000 a year to hire. so it's it's a yeah, it's a total game changer when you think about building and growing a company.
That's awesome. So on the AI front, are you doing anything experimenting at all with AI? I mean, I know
Oh
you've kind
yeah,
of
oh
knocked
yeah,
on it, but what are some
very
things that get
smart.
you
A
excited
lot
there?
a lot of very smart people are telling me that AI is going to kill somewhere.com. So I would be very foolish not to listen to it and be on the cutting edge of it, whether I'm going to be the person with it as a tool in my company or the intermediary to sell it to businesses, whatever it might be. So I've looked into 100 plus AI tools. I've demoed 40 that, looked promising to make my business more efficient. I probably tried to put 6 of them inside of my business, and one of them is adding a lot of value, Fathom, and the rest of them have been a giant pain in my ass.
Really? What's the one that's adding value? What's it doing for you guys?
It's Fathom. It's an AI note taker in meetings. It just allows me as the, you know, owner of the company and all my management to have a record, and we can train our salespeople better. We can do quality control better. We can train our recruiters better. We can train our sourcing team better. So yeah, it's an amazing tool.
I was pretty skeptical about a year ago. We've now incorporated it into. We've got some software. It's a long story. I don't give you my stuff, but basically, like, there's some things we're doing now with it where I'm like, okay, this is kind of, it's pretty powerful. Now, I don't think that it like replaces the human, but it gives it to where you could be way more efficient. And if someone's doing like manual entry stuff, like it can potentially replace some people, but you still have to have humans there. And in theory, you could, instead of replacing people, you would just make those people do higher value added things, right? It's like, well, you were spending a bunch of time doing this crap,
Yep.
took you 2 weeks. Now you can take that 2 weeks and do something that's going to add more value for the company. So I don't know that I see it like replacing jobs with what we're doing, but I do see it streamlining things tremendously on like a lot of menial tasks.
I see it. I see the menial tasks. It's a tool in the tool belt for your employee anywhere in the world to become more efficient. I also see a really good use case for quality control, meaning monitoring how all of your employees are doing across your organization, monitoring their calls, monitoring their email inbox, monitoring customer responses, helping you do quality of control, frankly. Quality control. I love it. The AI agents that people are talking to the AI, like Elon talks to the AI on Joe Rogan's episode recently. My friend Andrew Wilkinson built an AI bot that could, set a reservation at a restaurant. Chris, the HVAC guy, a friend of mine, has an AI agent answering calls for his HVAC company. These AI agents are laughable in my opinion, and I cannot believe in my logical brain that any business with an over $5 or $10 product is gonna trust these agents to answer the phone anytime soon with customers.
Yeah. For sure. I mean, like, yeah, answering like talking to the AI agents, I think is still a little out there. But like, if you could have agents do things like instead of you get these emails with certain type of invoice, instead of having a person go and save those to a file, the agent goes and grabs it, saves it, puts it in the right spot, or stuff like that. Like
Yep.
just automating kind of tasks that normally would just take some analyst to do. I could see it doing that. But
Yep.
then again, you have to kind of train that, and do people have the skill set to do it? Maybe that barrier, that bar gets lower. So I think there'll be things that they can do, but it's you can talk to one and it's pretty decent, but it's not there yet, in my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, look, I pay $350 to rent the storage unit. So I pay $100 for the phone to ring. Think I'm going to trust an AI agent to answer that call?
You want to that gets back to the whole thing about talking to folks. What is else has got you excited? I know it'd be hard to cover every business now, but I think you've got like the cost seg stuff. Is there
Yeah,
an insurance
well,
business too? What else?
yeah, Titan Risk is an insurance business I'm excited about. We have Bold SEO, we have WebRun, we have nickhuber.com, which is the brokerage. A couple other, I'm investing pretty heavily into a pest control business. I am excited about a lot of things. My three-headed monster is Somewhere, Bolt Storage, and RE Costseg. Somewhere and Bolt Storage are already maturing really quickly. RE Costseg is growing phenomenally fast, on its way to $1 million a month of revenue. Just mind blowing, considering we started that business in 2022. So yeah, I think those three are where 90% of my energy is going. And then obviously I continue to write, and my media stuff is also important to me.
Well, that's like the superpower, right? Is that the social media? This is a lot of this has started from that. Tell me when that light bulb went on, and what and how that's evolved in your thoughts, because it's not all rainbows and sunshine. Like I have a smaller following than you, and I still get crazy people and attacked and all these things. So like there are pros and cons to it. But just talk to me how the evolution of that and how you think about it today.
I think social media has been a blessing for me and my family, and it's clear. I would, it advanced my career 50 years. As far as the opportunity that I got access to, the people with capital, the potential partners, the audience, the customers. But there's a dark side of it, and it's not for everybody. That's for sure. If you have thin skin, do not, do not share openly on social media. That's my advice.
I mean, there's a lot of power to it. I think I kind of got to the point where I feel good about. I've grown it in the circles that I care about. So, like in the
Yes.
industries that I'm involved in, I've grown followings in those circles. And if I go to a conference or I go to meetings, people know me from it. And I'm like, that's great. Where I kind of started to pull back was where I was like, do I really want to be like famous, or do I just want to like be well connected in the circles that I care about? And I think
Yeah.
I kind of decided I don't want to be like famous, because there's like drawbacks to it as well.
And you also have to decide eventually, and I'm at a crossroads, like, do you want to build a media empire or do you want to build a business empire? There are people who have done both. There's the Gary Vaynerchuks, the Grant Cardones, Cody Sanchez and Alex Hormozy are on their way. Like, there are people who do both. I don't know. And also my message is not as I'm unwilling to have camera people follow me around in my day-to-day life at this point. And my message isn't as sexy. Like, I'm telling people they got to do hard work for a really long time.
Yeah, for sure. Well, I think if you have something exactly, I think if you have something to sell that is B2C, or even B2B. I mean, if you're, if you're doing like if you have something to sell of value, the media can really enhance that and create a lot of leverage. I think where people fall into a trap is like wanting the media itself to be the business, and that's like it's hard to do. It's kind of it's a game where you see how people make it immediate, and it's a lot of like copying other people's stuff and repackaging it, or it's like outrage takes all the time, or it's topical stuff or politics. And it's like, I mean, there's a few guys like the Founders Podcast guy. It's all on brand, and it's like he's doing a great job. But most
Yep.
media people, the way they grow it is like politics, outrage stuff, clickbait. And it's just kind of a little slimy in some ways where you're like, I'd rather just like talk about the things I like and promote the things I'm passionate about that I'm working on
Yep.
versus trying to like make money off the media.
And I think that's how you build trust. I think that's why people trust me is they know that I think for myself, and they're obviously not going to agree with everything I say, but yeah, I am who I am.
For sure. What are some of the hottest takes that you stand by to this day, that even though people rip you on them on social media? 'Cause some of them are good. And I like the driving a big car thing. That's, I like you say that all the time. And I've said that for years. I'm just like, I'm not getting in a little tiny vehicle. But what are some other ones that you feel like, cause you recycle things and you'll say them again. And it's like people maybe coming into the comments to do battle. And you're like, I've done this battle before. And also, you probably don't care cause you're doing it to get people riled up. Maybe, I guess. I don't know.
I think I think it's a disaster people going to these big cities and waking up 35 years old and single. I think it's a total disaster. Like, I was in Boston, we had kids at 27 years old. Nobody of our friends were even married yet. I moved to the South, and you go to a party, you go to anywhere with 30 to 40-year-old people, and there are more kids than there are adults. I love that, and I don't get it. I don't get it. Like, my daughter ending up in New York City as a single 35-year-old is just It's my worst nightmare. So that's what I probably get the most crap about.
Well, it's I think that I saw a thing recently. They talked about the declining birth rate, and they were basically like it's as simple as the fact that people are getting married later. I mean, yeah, there's a lot of other factors, but and people want to blame it on inflation and all these things. But the most basic factor is that people are told this story that you need to like live it up in your 20s, travel, spend money, don't all these things, and then even if they do get married in their 30s, like it's just biologically it's harder to have kids. Like if you're getting married at 23 versus 33, it is just a fact that it's more difficult to have children. And I think it's just causing, and the low birth rate is causing a lot of issues. Like we need more people to grow the economy. I don't know, man. I agree with you. My wife was 23 when we had our first kid. I was 27.
Amazing. Amazing.
And we've had 3 kids. She had 3 kids before she was 30.
It's amazing.
And when she was 29, she was like, we're better if we're going to have another one, like do it now. Cause I don't want to have kids later on. And we're just happy that we did it. I mean, she'll be really young when our last kid is out of the house, and we'll get to
Yep.
spend more time with them, more time with the grandkids. I mean, I don't know, I think it was the best decision we ever made.
That's a beautiful thing, and I think I get a lot of crap as well just for being a fan of the nuclear family, and my wife stays home, and I don't know. We don't have to go there if you don't want, but man, it's a real shame that ladies are steered away from that.
Well, and I think it's hard too because there's this whole uh you get into a career path, it's difficult, and you get pride out of it. People get self worth out of it, and then when they go to have kids, I think it's really difficult because you're kind of between a rock and a hard place now because you've gone down that path, you've gone to maybe grad school or done all these things, and then like when that kid comes, it's a challenge, man. I mean, I remember when we had our first kid, my wife worked for about 6 months, and it was really like once the time she was allowed to get. So she had 3 months like off. And then it was just like a couple months after that, we were like, I went to a daycare, and I'm not afraid to tell this story because I just let people know. But like I walked out of there and I was like about to cry. Like I had like tears in my eyes because I was like, I can't imagine sending my kids here. And then I just told my wife, I was like, quit your job. And I know not everybody can do that, but like, I knew that that's what we had to do.
Yeah, another thing is it's almost impossible to do that in the cities because you can't live on under 300K a year and have a kid in Manhattan or Boston. So it's a it's a it's something I'm really passionate about, man. I want people to get married younger, have more kids because everybody I know over the age of 50, the only thing they care about is their kids and grandkids.
No, it's a great take. It's a take that I agree with a lot. I'm trying to see what else I got here. So we're coming up on
Let
time.
me share it. I'll share this with you. You can drop this in the show notes. I'll see if I can open the chat. This is a tweet with basically my philosophy on a lot of these things that we're talking about. I guess I got to minimize screen first. Yeah, here we go. So click that link. If you want to touch on any of those subjects, we can. But generally speaking, I think the media forces a lot of people in a singular direction today, and luckily there's a lot of pushback on that. After people realize the woke shit was kind of not what it was cracked up to be. But I feel pretty strongly on a lot of these things.
Actually, this is one that I flagged when I was looking for your stuff. What I always do, my trick is if I have somebody that's active on Twitter on, I go and do a filter to everything that has more than 1,000 likes, and I go and bookmark them just to see what they were.
Yeah,
So the video games thing, dude, you hate video games. I am torn on this because I do think that there's people that can have a lot of problems with them. I played them growing up. I don't play that much anymore. I think there's a bit of a balance there, but like I see your point. It can kind of turn them into like it just depends. I mean, everybody's different. Some people can have really bad problems with it. Other kids can do it for 10 minutes and go outside and play.
but
But
some
that's
people, but my argument is like some people can drink alcohol their whole life and never make a single bad decision because of alcohol. But other people, it ruins their life. So are you going to put your kid in front of one of those things when they're 8? And just like the odds are not in your favor of them having a balance with this because they are designed by very smart algorithms to addict somebody. So I have friends who's these people are very rational humans. They're high performing people. They're entrepreneurs. They have great relationships with their spouse, and they're in complete denial that their children are totally addicted to video games, showing every single addictive sign there is. I just think I just think if you want to play Russian roulette and have a chance that your kid is 35 in your basement dressing like a wizard and casting spells on a computer all day, then so be it. I'm not going to take that chance, and my kids are not going to play video games.
yeah. My wife feels the exact same way. She hates them. I'm kind of torn. I like, a little bit of Mario Kart here and there is kind of
Oh
be
yeah,
fun and bond together with it. But to your point, like I've seen the kids where they start to show that stuff and we'll just take them away and then they'll be gone for a month. And after about a day or two, they completely forget about it. And so it's like, okay, well, then what are you really, if you take them away and then they forget about it within a couple days, that just goes to show you that they don't really need that stuff. And it's parents honestly hitting the easy button.
it's parents hitting the easy button and afraid to let their kids suffer with grace. And life is freaking hard. So if you're unwilling to see your kids suffer, they're not going to build the muscle of being able to suffer, and they're going to not be effective human beings. So yeah, it's like I have the argument is always, well, like my kid has community and they get on with their friends. Dude, playing Minecraft and playing Fortnite and talking trash with people that you don't see in person is not community. It's not a relationship, and it's an excuse.
Yeah, definitely. Well, I mean, that's one where people will argue about it, but I see the issues with it. I mean, it really is something that. What about school stuff? Have you tweeted about this? Your kids go private, public. This is just random at the end of the
Yeah,
pod here for anybody that cares, but it's something I went to public school. My kids are in private now, and I kind of battle with like, do I just stick them in the gen pop? General population in public to let them figure it out because that's more how the world is, or do we
yeah.
try to give them all the advantages? But what are your thoughts on that?
I think it's easy for me to say because my kid's 7. He's in a public school. It's a very diverse public school. He's a minority at the school, but there hasn't been an issue. As soon as my kid gets beat up or something, or it gets exposed to something like, there's no way he's going to go to public middle school in Athens, Clark County. So yeah, it's but the problem with private school is that they're going to do a bunch of homework, and I don't. I cannot wrap my head around homework. I think it's bullshit. I think kids need to live, kids need to play, kids need to be outside. And my 10-year-old coming home with an hour of homework every day from a private school is just mind blowing to me. So I don't know what we're gonna do.
So that's actually, I'm glad you mentioned that because that's what triggered. I knew you'd said something about it, and that I almost responded to that the other day. Got busy. I'm trying to tweet less actually, but um, I feel exactly the same way. I mean, Mike, I've got a 5, 6, and 9 year old in private school, and my 6 year old's in kindergarten, and it's like 30 minutes to an hour of homework a night, and they're so like strict about all this stuff. And I told my wife, I was like, when I was in kindergarten, it was like a half day and it was like patty cake stuff. I was like, I don't think I had homework until fifth grade or something in public school.
I didn't do a single bit of homework all the way through high school.
Yeah. Well, it's like, shouldn't they be able to get it done at class?
Chase girls, like, no, these kids aren't dating. These kids don't even want to get their license. These kids are not as interested in sports. Man, I don't know what I'm gonna do. Like, you're more patient than me, because if my kid comes home with an hour of homework that I got to suffer through with my kid, and it's messing up our outside time and going to play golf and going camping and going fishing, um, I don't know. I don't know. It's a really tough thing.
It is a tough thing. I don't know. It's one of those ones that I battle back and forth with the wife. Camping, man. You do the camper thing with the F-150. I have a little RV that I bought. I love that stuff. How are you thinking about your gear setup? Anything new you're thinking about doing there to like enhance that experience? 'Cause that's a fun rabbit
You
hole
have
to
an
go down
Airstream,
if
right?
you're. Yeah, I've got a little Airstream.
Yeah, I don't have the space right now for a pull behind. I won't want that in my arsenal for sure. I have an iCamper 3.0 on the roof of my F-150. I have a deck system in the back to keep all my shit. I have a Jackery battery and a Dometic fridge, and it's an amazing setup, man. Like, I can pack for a camping trip in half an hour because my truck's already loaded with most of the stuff I need, and we can hit the road and go. And yeah, my kids just freaking love it. There's no screens, there's no agenda. We're just lighting stuff on fire and riding bikes and catching fish.
It's fun. It's fun, man. What about last thing here? The bourbon side. What do you got going there? You collect?
I wish I could. Let me show you. So these are my two favorites. This is 23, Pappy 23, and then this is Warehouse C. Is this in focus? This is EH Taylor Warehouse C, and it's half drank. They told me when I bought it not to drink it because they're not going to make any more Warehouse C, and then I opened it and it got a lot more valuable, and I don't really care. I drink it. And then it's Pappy 23 that I haven't opened yet. I'm waiting for waiting for a special occasion to open that with some good people. But I'm remodeling an office and I'm putting a humidor, like a HVAC system in there that recycles outside air only, so I can smoke. I'll be able to smoke cigars and pipes in my office. I'm a fan of tobacco.
Yeah. Yeah. I think we got some stuff in common there. Awesome, man. Well, it's been good. Thanks for coming on. Congrats on the book. And I'm glad we got to do it. I'll continue to follow along, and I like your stuff. And it's this is why I do this, is I get to meet people, and it's my main thing that keeps me doing it. So
Thanks,
glad you.
Max. I'll give a shameless plug if people wanna learn more about the Sweaty Startup. Obviously, the book's for sale, but the most visited page of my website is a list of 200 plus business ideas. And if you go to sweatystartup.com/ideas, you can see it's like 300 plus business ideas now, and none of them are tech, none of them are AI, none of them are Web3, none of them are change the world. But if you just start to read through that list, it'll kind of open your eyes to some stuff in my way of seeing the world.
Everybody go check it out. All right, man. Thanks, Nick.
Max, thanks for having me.